I'll do that now, but it's mid-done. Oh, I have you a hat too. Oh, look who gets to join us.
Oh,
I know,
check this
I even
out.
had these for you, but I wore them instead so they wouldn't miss out. It was really fun. I did a little, if you go like this with your head, it makes your beard dance.
Check that out.
Yep, it was fun.
I like this.
Lauren says it's hard to hear us. Do you want to pull this closer?
Yeah.
All right, it's gonna be a little earthquake. Okay. Hopefully that's better, Lauren. So we're talking about the difference. Can dogs learn the difference between kid toys and dog toys?
Yes.
As well as food and kid clothing. So we were just talking about baiting a dog, having a long line, 30-foot long line attached to your dog so they can sneak into the kid room and lay a couple toys in a pile that look voluptuous to your dog so they'll want to go for them, and then set up a video camera so that you can be in the kitchen pretending to cook. And sometimes you have to make it look real, so maybe have a pot of boiling water going and just be stirring it like you're cooking something, so the dog thinks that you're really not watching them. And then when they go for the kill to steal a kid toy, reel in that dog leash, say no, have a high value dog toy to encourage them to get, and then maybe play with them for a few seconds for choosing that toy. So absolutely can teach them to stay away from kid toys. But the catch is, the scale part, right? Whatever weighs the most is how they think. If more times than not they get away with it, they're gonna keep doing it.
Consistency.
So it's super important to just bait them any opportunity you get. And it takes literally 2 minutes max. I mean, if you have a well set, like if you have those toys set up just right that makes your dog really have naughty thoughts about stealing them, you know, you just go in there and pretend like you're doing something. Sometimes you have to pretend like you're going to the bathroom, you know, and you still have that long line on and have that video camera set up where you know they're going to go for it. And as soon as they do, you can pop out of the bathroom and be like, I saw you, no, get this toy. And it's one of my favorite guilty pleasures as a dog trainer, is that like caught red-handed look in the dog's eye, like, I don't know how you saw that. I wasn't going to get that toy. This is so embarrassing.
Did somebody page you? What is going on? How'd you know this?
It's so cool. So absolutely. The same thing with the kid toys, kid clothes. So we've had dirty clothes, because some dogs go for clean toys, but dirty toys, I'm stuck on toys. Dirty clothes are way more appealing to dogs than clean clothes because they smell like us. So all of our gross smells, dogs, it just feels like us. So it's kind of sweet, but we obviously don't want them to chew on it. And so the same thing, baiting them with, you know, a pile of stinky socks or undergarments, because they like those a lot. And then having that video camera set up and hiding yourself, but look busy. Don't just stand over it like, get this toy right now, get this sock right now, because they're gonna not do that. They're smarter than that. So absolutely baiting them. Food. We do the exact same thing with food.
Yeah. I mean, with all of this stuff, it's going to be the same formula that we preach a lot. Effective correction, proper alternative, reward.
Praise.
Praise.
Yep.
So that's exactly what she described. If they're going for something they shouldn't have, stop that. So get them to not be eating that, whatever method you're using. Have that other high value, appropriate toy, whatever, and then encourage them to play with that.
And the goal is, you'll be sitting in the bathroom or cooking your meal, and you'll see your dog go for a toy, and it's like right when you go to reach for that leash or start to yell no, they pause and run out of the room to go find their own toy. That's my favorite moment. It's when it's clicking.
Awesome.
So formula for success: interrupt that naughty behavior, effective correction, whatever stops them in the act. Sometimes it's yelling, sometimes it's tugging on that leash, whatever it is. If you have the remote trainer, it could just be a little push of that button. Whatever stops them from making that naughty action, naughty thought, redirect them to what they should do, chew on their own toys, and then praise them heavily for that choice. And don't forget to praise them when they make their good choices. Sometimes we just expect them to be good, and we just don't notice it because they're not being bad. So try to look for those good moments too, so you can always praise those good moments. For those dogs on the naughty list, do we condone sweaters and jackets? I think, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Personal preference. You know, Pepper, our miniature schnauzer, if we had to buzz him, because I really slack on getting him groomed consistently.
We are not professional groomers.
No. And I do it myself, so, you know, I always procrastinate. So when we would procrastinate and have to give him like a buzz because he'd get really kind of tangly, we'd put a sweater on him because I just felt terrible. We didn't use it as much here in South Carolina as we did in Indiana, but on those colder nights, if he was buzzed, we definitely wouldn't hesitate to put it on him.
Yeah, he was not accustomed to being buzzed, so he normally had more hair.
Yeah, he normally had a big fur jacket.
So that was a change for him. Holiday apparel is fun.
Yeah, it is. It's just a personal preference. It doesn't affect anything.
Probably the smartest Santa I've ever seen.
Right, Santa dog trainer. Saw him first right here. It's the best thing ever. So yeah, it is just personal preference. It does not affect their behavior as far as, some people think it makes them bratty. It doesn't do that. And do they need it? I mean, if he's going to be outside and it's life or death, I don't think a sweater is going to stop that. But if he's just outside to go potty and stuff, with or without the sweater, he'll still live. So it's just a personal preference of comfort.
Yeah, I would say more times than not, it affects us more than the dogs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just us worrying about if they're cold is actually we're in more discomfort than probably our dog is not having the sweater on.
Yep. He said it.
Yeah.
I need to get my foot off this because I keep bumping it. Did you feel the earthquake we had like 2 days ago, by the way? It was in Tennessee, and we supposedly felt quakes.
No, what time was it?
I have no idea. I'm going to stay on track, though, because we have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Okay, chewing on wooden furniture goes back to the same scenario as with the toys and the clothes and the food. But here's a little trick for you. You can also use this on the toys, but depending on the ages of your kids, may not be a good idea because it'll affect them too. There's a product called Bitter Apple, and there's a product called Fooey. Bitter Apple's ethanol based, so it's alcohol, and it does evaporate over time. So you need to reapply it daily or several times a day. Fooey is cayenne pepper based, so it's a hot. It's hot. When I worked at a pet store, I had a coworker try it and throw up. So
try it?
Like he sprayed it on his fingers and then licked it and then threw up. So
what if you like cayenne pepper?
We had to send him home. I don't know if he liked cayenne pepper or not, but it was too much for him.
Fooey soup.
Fooey soup, gross. But those are what's called teething repellents, and so they just naturally teach your dog that everything's gross except your toys, so don't even try to chew on anything. When you use these products, though, they do kind of rub off or evaporate over time. So what I always recommend, here's my dog trainer tip, is to put your 2 fingers like this, so you have a little crack. Sounds funny to say that one. There we go. Squirt 2 or 3 squirts in here, so you got a little puddle. And you're gonna open your dog's mouth and swab it in their tongue, so all over their tongue. And they're going to, I think more than 2 did. They're going to obviously like lick their mouth and try to like lick the ground and try to get this taste out of their mouth because it's really gross. But then when they go to chew on those things, and let's say the bitter apple started to evaporate, so it's just a faint taste, it'll be enough to remind your dog of that taste they had in their mouth and be like, no, I remember that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
But if you don't do the puddle and then swab it in their mouth, and they do try to chew on something that has the evaporated bitter apple on it, they may chew through that minor distaste because the pleasure of chewing on it feels so much greater.
Yeah.
So that's our tip for that. And it's one of those things that you literally set it, you spritz it, and forget it. You just might have to spritz it several times throughout the day.
The downfall is you can only forget it for so long.
Yeah.
Needs reapply.
But the forgetting it part is that, you don't have to be watching them like a hawk 24/7. So it does give you a break there. And then it always says to, spray it in behind, on the back of the furniture, on the back of a leg to make sure it doesn't discolor anything. We've sprayed it all over our house and our children, and it hasn't discolored anything. But always be safe.
Liability thing.
Yeah, so you can absolutely teach them to stop chewing on the wooden furniture. Any furniture. It's same thing applies. Aggression with specific toys. So this reminds me of a bit bitter apple. This reminds me of a Facebook Live we did a few weeks ago, and we brought up the King Joffrey complex. It was a dog who had a very similar situation. He was an angel until he had a specific high-value toy or treat, and then he became the devil. Just kidding. But he became a naughty boy, and he would growl and snip and try to bite if you try to take it away. So it was a very serious problem, nothing to take lightly. And so we talked about with leadership, as a leader, as a homeowner, as the boss of your home, as the parent of your dogs and children, you're the boss. Everything in the house is yours to decide the rules to. You own it, including your dog's toys and your dog's furniture and your dog's food and your dog's bowls and your dog's leashes and your collars. Everything is yours. So when a dog growls over that resource, the dog doesn't see it as yours. He sees it as his or hers. And so take offense to that. Not good. You bought the toy, you own the toy, and you share the toy with your dog. So that's a kindness, right?
Yeah.
You're kind, you're sharing, and he's being or she's being disrespectful. And so in that Facebook Live, we talked about how to set up some resources, and it's kind of a give and take. If you can't respect this toy, I'm going to take it from you, and I'm not going to give it back. Maybe never. Or maybe it's going to be 3 weeks or 3 months before I reintroduce it. And with that, taking away those privileges, there's other things that you're going to implement as far as training and relationship building, right? Because you can't just demand to be the boss. You have to earn that right. Parent, being mom or dad, is not a name that you just get. You have to earn it every day by making choices to always do what's best for your children, which is sometimes really hard because the easy thing would be to let them get away with naughty things when, pretend like you don't see. But the same is true for a dog. So you have to hold yourself accountable and you have to hold them accountable to their behaviors. So we're going to post the link to that video in this thread, so you can go and read all of those, listen and see all of those details. Dogs being reactive to other dogs, especially in a group. So it sounds like you have multiple dogs in your home, and when it's just one dog, it's and when you have all of the dogs, it's like a war, right? Like your dogs are scouting out battlefields to go on, to take on other dogs. And that's very typical of multiple dog households without proper leadership. So obviously you want to be your dog's leaders. They're just not seeing you as their leaders. And that's why they're doing all these naughty behaviors. Because what they're doing, I'm just going to do a little reenactment here. You can catch on because you'll get this. A dog's walking down the street and he sees, oh, did you see that dog over there? Did you see what he just did to me? I didn't think he could do that to me. Did you say you could do that to me? And then everybody's going to go crazy. When a dog sees you as the leadership, as the human as the leader, they're going to say, I didn't say that. Did you say that? Hey, what did you think of that? And they're going to look to you for advice instead of talking amongst themselves. So that's why they're worse together, and they're still naughty separate and alone. So again, just going back to earning your dog's trust and respect and leadership. And how you do that, for us, the easiest way is obedience and house rules and house manners, right? Accountability. These are the boundaries that we're setting in our home, and there will be consequences if you don't follow them, just like with your kids. So working on the sit command, and when we say work on the sit command, I don't mean sit for your treat, okay, here's your treat, goodbye. No, make them work for the relationship, not because you're paying them. We pay our dogs because we love them. We give them toys and foods and high value treats because we want to, not because they're doing something for it. We do make them do something for it, but they're doing things for us without these things all the time because it's a relationship that we've earned by proving again and again how important our role is in this relationship. Our job is to keep our dogs safe, and my dogs know that I keep them safe. So start with the sit command, have a leash on, so if they don't comply, you can hold them accountable from running away and say, no, I said sit, I mean it. You can do little tugs and kind of pull up towards their bottom, and that kind of helps pull their body back into a sit motion. And then if they try to get up, before you say they can, no sit. I said sit, you need to hold it until I give you permission to get up because I need to make sure it's safe. You could have spilt something on the floor that's toxic to dogs. You could have company coming in and your dog might jump on them and accidentally scratch them and make them bleed. So when you say sit, they have to hold it. Excuse me, I have hiccups. Until you give them permission to get up. That's accountability, and that's you earning their leadership. And you're not being mean about it. So sometimes, if you have your dog hold the sit as people come in, when your dogs come down, guess what? We calmly walk them up to those guests to say, hey, now you can say hi now that you're being calm. And they still get all that love and affection they wanted. There was just an order to it. You may say sit and drop some treats on the ground. Oh, that's going to be really exciting for your dog because in your dog's mind, they think they're their treats, not your treats. But remember, you bought them, they're yours. You drop those treats, your dogs try to get them, you have the leash on, you're already ready for this, you're going to say, no, sit. And make sure they sit back down, pick up those treats, do it again. And you're going to keep picking them up and dropping them until you drop them and your dog just looks at you like, can I get them yet or what? And then that's your cue to say, of course, thank you so much for being such a good boy. Break, you may get your treats because your dog asked permission. that's the relationship we're looking for. So lots of training videos on our YouTube page, on our Facebook pages that you guys can go back through and learn how to build that leadership, that respect, and that trust on your own. And then of course you can always seek out professionals like us or other dog trainers that can help get your dog on track, because that relationship is priceless. I mean, it's just the most beautiful thing to know that your dog trusts you and that you can trust your dog to listen to. Gentle leader, harness, front latch, top latch, prong collars, etc. What tools do we need? Specifically, I think this was brought on by loose leash walking.
Yep.
So, love this question. Kudos to you for being proactive and researching all the tools. And it really depends on your dog. Something that's unique about us as dog trainers is that we don't have a one cookie cutter approach for all dogs. They're all different, just like kids, just like people. So get to know your dog. Our Schnauzer absolutely refused to move with the gentle leader. And they said, well, just leave it on him. He'll get used to it. He would not move. He'd go sit in his cage and not come out the rest of the day. And so I felt like at that point, it wasn't worth conditioning him to like the gentle leader when I could just move on to another tool.
Yeah. May he have gotten over it? Maybe, but it would have been a kind of a pointless process to go through when there are plenty of other very effective tools.
Yep. For some dogs, that might be the perfect tool. It just depends. So be open. So if you try a tool and it doesn't work, it's okay. It doesn't mean your dog's not trainable or that you did something wrong. Just know there's other ways. Slip collars, they're not my favorite. I wouldn't use a slip collar just because that tightening goes evenly around the neck, and so it does kind of cut off airflow and even displace some of the spine when it's tight. So if your dog's pulling on the leash for an extended period of time, it's just staying tight around their neck, and it can cause some injuries. When used properly by a professional with like well-timed corrections, it can be a good tool, but that's really hard to get. And so there's other safer options. We just choose not to use them. Harnesses. So front latch or top latch. I'm assuming you mean like the back of the neck or the front latch. So front latch right here between the chest is best. That's not my opinion. That's by Dr. Allison Faber Marshall.
That's the name.
Is that her name now? She just got married, so I want to make sure I got it right. Or not just, I don't know how long ago it was, but new name. And so she said the front attaching ones are the best because most harnesses, a lot of people don't know this. So two things that I don't like about harnesses. One is they encourage pulling. A lot of people get a harness to prevent pulling. What it does is it makes it safer for your dog to pull because that harness puts that pressure evenly around your dog's chest so they can pull all they want and not get hurt. Really bad for your shoulder though, and your wrists and your elbows, and your chiropractor will not like this. So harnesses do not teach your dog not to pull. The no pull harnesses are even worse than the regular harnesses in that it restricts shoulder movement in your dog, and that can cause a lot of injuries and subluxations in the spinal column as well. So according to Dr. Allison Faber Marshall, Dr. Marshall, I think I should just say now. I don't know if she has like the Allison-Marshall attachment or not.
It's hard because we know her by Dr. Faber.
Right? So I'm just going to say Dr. Marshall, but know that it could be Dr. Faber or Dr. Faber-Marshall. Okay? Politically correct, right? I don't want to offend anyone. I'm probably making a way bigger deal than this.
Yeah.
That's what I do. That's
AFM.
what I do. I don't know what that means. So she said the front attaching ones are the best if you feel like you must go through a harness. Prong collars, so again, coming from Dr. Marshall, prong collars go evenly around a dog's neck so they can't cut off airflow, blood flow, or cause spinal subluxations because that pressure goes evenly around, and so it doesn't put pressure this way on the spine to cause a subluxation like a flat buckle collar or choke chain or slip collar would, and then the same here, it can't do that injury. So when a tool is used properly, and when you get a well quality tool, it's a harmonious thing. It's beautiful. Beware though, if you just go to Walmart and buy a prong collar, it's going to have the tips cut off and they're going to be very abrasive. They're not going to pierce your dog's neck, but they are going to scratch them. So the only one. Yeah,
just to clarify, like cheap, some of the cheaper models. So we use one brand. We use Hermspringer because they're nice, quality metal that's rounded, very very smooth,
rounded tips.
Rounded tips. the prongs that actually make contact, they're rounded and smooth. Some cheaper models, they're more like machine cut off, so they're abrasive. They've got more square or scratchiness
Yeah,
and
they're just
more
really
rough edges.
They're not nice. So just, yeah, I love prong collars for that reason. Again, though, they may not be for every dog. And so learning your dog's love language, who they are, how they think, their learning style will help you find the collar that's appropriate. And you can take your dog into the store, and a lot of stores won't mind if you sample their product. So put on that prong collar and just walk back and forth and see how your dog reacts. If your dog's very responsive to it and he starts pulling, he looks back at you like, hey, were you saying something? You can be like, yes, thank you so much. I was saying not to pull. Let's move on. Great tool. If you put on the prong collar and your dog throws a tantrum, because like, I'm going to just call out German Shepherds because they're very typical of this. Like they'll scream at you like you killed them, and it's really them just getting mad that you have control. It may not be the right tool unless you have a professional there that can show you how to get your dog out of that tantrum, because they don't need to play that game and they don't need to win that game. That's my mom coming out for my toddlers. Because I'm the mom when my toddlers throw a tantrum in the store, I just stand and watch them. We're good. Don't worry, we're good. He'll be fine in a minute. So we're just not giving into that. And then when they're done, we can go ahead and proceed with our day. So prong collars, love them. Remote trainers, again, just depends on a good quality one, because there's always bad quality ones on the market. We love e-collar technologies. I've also heard good things about Dogtra. I've just never used a Dogtra. So e-collar tech has one. We like the Easy Educator. It's one of our favorite training tools because it does a couple different things. Off-leash reliability. There's always a connection to your dog without the leash. So they get this little tickle on their neck, this little tapping that says, hey, I'm talking to you. And they can be up to a half a mile away. So if you have land, or you just maybe want to go to the dog park and have your dog have some freedom, which we don't recommend dog parks, so don't do what I said.
Maybe.
How about the park, right?
Right?
Or a friend's backyard or something. You can always have that connection to your dog, even if there's no leash on them. So it is very safe, and that you have that touch no matter where your dog is. 2, it bridges the communication gap. Dogs don't naturally talk to each other. Us humans, we're always barking out orders at our dogs, and that's not how they communicate. They communicate through body language, using their eyes to look at other dogs, is how they listen, and through touch. They're always waiting for a touch. So the e-collar gives them that touch even when we're saying something. So if we say, hey, come back, and they were too far away, they didn't hear us, they're going to feel us talking to them and say, hey, were you trying to say something to me? And they're going to come find you. So the remote trainer is really great for that as well. Did I go over all the tools? I think so. Some dogs just need a flat buckle collar, and that's fine too. Cool. So how we teach the walk, I think we have some videos on this, yeah?
We have videos on teaching walk, I'm sure. I'm not sure if we have videos of every different way that we teach it.
Yeah, there's, again, because we don't have one cookie cutter way, it just depends on the dog. We want to do what's best for the dog and their learning style. So there's lots of ways to teach anything. And
I was just going to say, if you search our YouTube page for walk or loose leash walk, I'm sure you'll find several videos.
Yep, and variety's best. So if you try one way and it doesn't work, it's okay. It just means maybe it wasn't best for you or the dog. Try something else. And don't hesitate to reach out to a professional, because we get dogs. We can help you get through it. 5-year-old barks are starting to get grouchy and having an outburst. Is an angel with the remote on, and I believe they said they have taken him to the doctor and they did, a workup for pain and stuff, and everything seemed fine. I would take it to the next level, because my first thought was, he's 5 and he's suddenly getting grouchy. To me, there's a problem inside of him. And a lot of times in behaviors where all of a sudden, my dog was great, and then all of a sudden he bit my son, or he bit grandma, or whatever it is. There's always an underlying thing. Sometimes it could be that your toddler wasn't reading the signals for a really long time, and then your dog just snapped because your kid wasn't listening, and he said, I got to put this baby in her place. And so they do a bite, but it's usually a last straw type of thing. Other times when it's a dog that's 5 and he's been fine with the other dogs that have lived with him for years, and all of a sudden is getting grouchy, it's because something's off. So I don't know if you did a full blood workup, but I would recommend a full blood workup, CBC, complete blood something. I don't know.
Panel?
But it's CBC.
I don't know
either.
These terms.
I should. And then I would have them see a chiropractor. So I believe this one was from Fort Wayne. So New Haven Pet Hospital. I don't know the doctor's name there, but I do know that he does do dog adjustments. I would have him see your boxer to make sure everything is fine and perfectly aligned in the spine. Because when you go to just a regular doctor, a veterinarian, just like us our human regular doctors, they just kind of like touch you and say, okay, no pain, cool, everything must be fine. But what if you have a subluxation in your neck, or your hip's out of place and it's affecting your feet and your back, and everything's just wonky, but you don't have noticeable physical pain? Your body is still stressed inside and releasing cortisol and all these other hormones to help regulate whatever problem this is, so your body can compensate. That puts your body in overdrive and makes your fuse much shorter. Much shorter. We're down south. We can say shorter. No, I can't. I can't do a southern accent, guys.
We don't need to be sharting all over the place now, honey. Come on now, we're live here.
I'm gonna go change my pants. So yeah, I would have him see a chiropractor and have a full blood panel workup. A lot of times thyroid discrepancies, whether it's hyper or hypo, can cause a lot of reactive and aggressiveness in dogs, especially as they age. So 5's kind of right about that age where your dog's not quite senior yet, but he's in his good like midlife, and so now is the time to make sure everything is good and maintains at that good level. So that was my first thought. Collar wise, we've been there. We know. You can get dummy collars from eCollar Tech. I don't remember what they were. They're like $30 maybe. A really good price. They're basically collars that just don't work. And so when you're not live with your remote trainer, like when they're sleeping or you're not home, you can put on this dummy collar that has the same weight, same feel, so your dog never knows when the collar's on or off. And so that's how we got our dogs over being collar wise. It is a commitment. Because when they get collar-wise, it is really hard to break. But it's well worth that time putting in and playing with that dummy collar so that you can get your dog over that. Because we don't want them to only listen when the collar's on. We want them to listen because there's that relationship of trust, and they know you know what's best for them, even if they don't always like what you're telling them. Just like with our kids. 2 dogs injured themselves on separate occasions and now have an aversion to playing with each other. So I need more details. I don't know what that means. So one dog, I think, injured a leg, and then another dog injured a leg or a foot at separate times. And I could be misreading everything you put. But then after they've healed, they can't play together. There's an aversion. So I don't know if that means they fight, or if they just don't play, which maybe just could be their bodies just aren't completely healed, so they might need to see getting adjustment and see a chiropractor to make sure there is some homeostasis in the body and that everything's flowing properly. Because the spine is that connection from the brain to the body, and if there is something out of place there, that makes all kinds of other signals wonky in the body. So them not playing together could just be that they're not fully healed, and so when they do play, it hurts, or it just doesn't feel right, or it's just not fun. So having them get adjusted will definitely help with that. I don't remember if this was a Greenville or Fort Wayne post. So Fort Wayne, we said New Haven Pet Hospital. Greenville, we love Dr. Natasha. We're going to have her probably come back out in the new year.
Probably early new year if we can.
And then there's also, I think, All About Pets up in Travelers Rest.
Yep.
And she does acupuncture, chiropractic, and holistic veterinary medicine. So somebody else said it's hard to hear us too. I'm so sorry, guys. We are recording this. I didn't get the full thing, so I forgot to start it. So we'll replay it. But if they're fighting when they're playing, same thing. It could be that the injuries are still there, and so they cause pain when they play, and then they get mad at each other. And that might take 2 steps: seeing a chiropractor and getting that adjustment, but also seeing a behaviorist, like a dog trainer, us, to make sure that they learn some new manners and cues to end the play.
Right.
So there's a lot of social cues that dogs, just like kids, don't get. We have to teach them. And so when you're playing, Morgan is really good at this. She'll play with a dog and she'll be having fun, but she's 10 and she's a mastiff. She's had hip dysplasia her whole life, and she gets tired, and I guess I wouldn't say she's in pain, but she probably does get a little tense and a little tight when she does play because she's getting older. And so she'll be playing, and all of a sudden she'll be like, "Oof." And she says it kind of mean. And that's her cue to say, "I'm done. Like, you're crazy, kid. Go play with someone else." And if that dog doesn't respond to Morgan and they still keep kind of playing with her, they're not being mean. They're just trying to play. But Morg said she's out. And they need to respect that and move on. So that's our job as the humans to work on those social cues and let them know, no, she's done. She means it. Go play with someone else. You need to respect that. And so definitely you can get some help there too. So I hope you guys could hear us. I'm sorry if you couldn't.
I'm going to look into this problem.
Yeah, we're going to look at that because this is new. Normally
Yeah.
the screen's farther away and you can hear us pretty well. So thank you so much for tuning in. We loved having you guys. If you like what you see, subscribe and share. If you have somebody who has a dog with one of these challenges, share it with them. We just want to help people. So share it with everyone you can and we'll get some dogs on the naughty list. Bye, guys. We'll hope to see you next week.
See ya. Bye. Later.
Yeah.